Work doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be one of those things where, you wake up on a Monday morning and you snooze your alarm because you don't want to get out of bed. It doesn't have to be one of those things that's such a drainer, and it doesn't have to be a thing that burns you out. And I know this. After spending 15 years in corporate and moving into a senior leadership position, whilst also balancing a toddler and mentoring women on the side, I can tell you that work can be fun. It can be a place that you go and you're fulfilled on a daily basis. It can be a place where you go and you're working on interesting things and you're loving it, and you're not burning out. You're not taking time away from home. But the trick is there are certain habits that you need to employ on a daily basis. They are teeny tiny behaviors that make them more thoughtful, that make them more organized, and that make them build trust. So today, I want to share 12 habits that can make a huge difference to your career over time. These are habits that I've personally practiced daily, maybe not daily, almost daily. I'm not perfect, but I've practiced them a lot in my career and they have been truly, truly helpful. Now, before we get into what they are, I just want to introduce you to this concept of 1% changes. And it's a concept that was made famous in this book, Atomic Habits, although I do see it used often in loads of places. But anyway, regardless, it was made famous in this book by James Clear. And basically, what the theory is that 1% changes over time compound into huge, huge results. And actually, if you make a 1% change every day for a year, 12 months later, at the end of that year, you're going to be 37 times better off. And so it's not about making these huge shifts over time. It's actually employing 1% changes in your daily habits that can basically improve how you work. And now, before we get into all the 12 habits, I've just, to make it easier for you, I've put them into little buckets. So there's 5 buckets that we're going to go through. There's habits that keep you focused. There's habits that ensure you work more efficiently. There's habits that protect your energy. There's habits that build trust. And there's habits that strengthen your mindset. So there's 5 different buckets of habits that we're going to go through. And before I get into the detail, I also just want to share, if you are an ambitious woman, or if you're feeling stuck in your career, if you're nervous about AI and wondering what skills that you need to improve in the world of AI, or you're just someone who's ready to accelerate your career, find me on LinkedIn and DM me about my program, Sage. It's a career accelerator that I have specifically designed for women. All right, so let's get into the habits. And just so you know, there's a cat sitting behind me. So if you can hear some purring, that's why. All right. Bucket number 1, habits that keep you focused. All right, so the first habit is to write your 3 MITs. And that is asking yourself the question, what are the 3 most important things to do today? Now, I have banged on about this a few times, I think in like 3 other videos maybe. So if you're not doing it yet and you've seen me talk about this before, this is your sign to do it now. This is honestly one of the biggest game-changing habits that you can implement by just simply taking out 5 minutes of your morning and asking yourself, what are the 3 most important things to do today? It's simple. Write them down on a Post-it, in a notebook, in your calendar, whatever works for you, and just work through them one by one. By doing this, you will focus, and by doing this, you will work on the things that are most important and that are going to have the most impact for you. All right, habit number 2, maximize your peak energy. So we are all wired differently. And look, this probably oversimplifies it, but simple's easy, so it's fine. Look, we're either, and maybe we're not either, maybe sometimes we're a bit of both, but most of the time we are either a morning lark or a night owl. And I find actually in relationships, we're often the opposite to our partner. My husband is a night owl and I am a morning lark. I like to get up early. He likes to stay up late. So I get annoyed at him when we're on the couch past 10 o'clock. He gets annoyed at me when I'm out of bed by 6 a.m. But that's just the reality of relationships, isn't it? Anyway, we are all wired differently, mostly in one of these 2 ways. And what that means for you is to identify, like, when do you have the most energy? So for me, it is like 7 o'clock in the morning, I have the most energy. It's when I can get my clearest thinking done. So what I then do is I schedule the hardest work for when I have the most clarity and energy in the day. Sometimes that means getting up at 6 a.m. and doing a bit of work to make like the thinking work that I know is going to be hard, and just like getting that out the door first thing, because I get my best work done then, and it actually means I'm quickest. So a really easy habit to implement is maximize your peak energy. Identify when it is for you and then do your hard stuff then. Habit number 3 is to begin with the end in mind. This was made famous by Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But when you are working on something that is difficult or big or challenging in any way, think about the end outcome. Think about what it is that you're wanting to deliver and then work back from there. So this is really good for any thinking work, but like start with where you want to end up. And the way that you can do that, if you're not clear on what the end outcome should be, the first thing to do is confirm your expectations and understand what does success look like. So like talk to your manager, talk to your boss and say, hey, I just want to align on this one. What does success look like in this piece of work? And the other thing that I don't do this as much anymore, but I used to do this a lot, and I just don't do it as much anymore just based on my job. But I used to, whenever I was writing like a big piece of work or this is particularly when I was working agency side and I was writing big reports for clients, I would often like lay out my slides in this way, and every slide I would write down like what was the main point of that slide, what is the story that I want to get across in that one slide, and I would work out like what my full story was before starting to build it all one by one. Second bucket, habits that ensure you work efficiently. So we went through the ones that help you focus. These are now like your time crunches, right? So the first one, your calendar equals your to-do list. And again, I've been through this before. If you're not doing this, again, it's your signal to do it. So time block your tasks into your calendar as you receive them so you never forget them. Like this is just such a simple habit to start doing. As soon as you receive something, put it into your calendar because that way you won't forget it. And again, I've said this before, but you should color code your work, not just because it looks pretty, but it actually helps you understand where you're spending your time. And I actually have this video here. Let's see if it works. It's an Outlook hack, and you can do this on Google as well. But you basically can set up your calendar in a way so that you can just like drag and drop tasks into your calendar. So you can set up your tasks views on the right, and then you can drag and drop those tasks so that they sit into your calendar on the left. Okay. There was highlighter marks there, but like you get the point. All right. Habit number 5, and the second in improving your efficiency, is to set deadlines. There is a theory, a law called Parkinson's law. Oh, look, ChatGPT misspelled it. Ha, oopsies. And basically what that law states is that work will expand to fill the space that we give it. So what this means is that if you give yourself 2 weeks to do a piece of work, it's going to take you 2 weeks. If you give yourself a day and you're like, okay, I've got to get this done now, you're going to figure out a way to get it done in a day. If you put a meeting in for 3 hours, it's going to take you 3 hours to get to an outcome. But if you force it to happen in an hour, you'll figure out a way to make sure it can happen in an hour. So it's just something worth noting that like work will expand to the time that you give it. And if you give something no deadline, it will take you forever. So Parkinson's law basically identifies that there is an optimal time to complete work. Too little time, and it can be actually quite frustrating, but if you allocate it too much time, you just end up wasting it because you're working really, really inefficiently. And that's where this like effort, or the amount of effort that you're using it becomes reduced because you're just working super, super inefficiently. So the trick is to give yourself a deadline, and it can be a fake deadline, right? Like say to your boss, hey, I'm going to have this to you Monday, even though you know it's due on Wednesday, and set time in with them to go through it on Monday. Like even just having that deadline in the calendar, it will help give you the pressure that you need to get things done. So create some accountability, and make sure that you are giving yourself those deadlines. And that can look like, as I said, review meetings with your boss, but also building out timelines with milestones if it's like a really big project or a really big program of work, and making that timeline public to other teams. All right, habit number 6 is to document in writing. And this is one, no one does it. It's so important. Again, I've talked about this before. If you're not doing it yet, please just start doing it. So memories are fragile, right? Like you will sit in a meeting and things will get aligned and people will forget them. Memories are fragile. You need to document so that you have that clarity and you have that reference that you can point back to. So very, very easy, but send concise, easy to follow up emails after any key decisions or group meetings. Send it that day, keep it short, and highlight who will do what and when. It's very simple. Just do the act of documenting and sending the email. And actually, if you're really efficient, you can actually document it while the meeting is happening, so you can send it off straight away. Habit number 7, and still focusing on efficiency, is to send a Friday wrap up email. So, if you send your boss a weekly note to sum up the week just gone and the week ahead, the 3 achievements and the 3 focuses for next week, it helps you be more productive. Why? Because one, you'll know that you're working on the right things because they will give you feedback to say, hey, so thanks for your focus areas for next week, but actually need you to really focus on this. But also, it will build trust with them. Like giving this constant feedback and constant communication to your boss, all it does is build a lot of trust with them. So it builds trust, it builds visibility, and it sets you up for the next week. So whilst it might feel like another thing to do, again, I guarantee you it saves you time. All right, moving into the next bucket, but we're looking now at habits that protect your energy. So, habit number 8, 25-minute meetings. I will admit I'm not great at this. And I think it's the whole thing of like Parkinson's law. If there's a 30-minute meeting and we're going to take 30 minutes to discuss something. But if you do build the habit of 25-minute meetings, having that 5-minute gap in between is so, so helpful. It's so, so crucial. It actually helps you think more clearly and reduces your stress. And this here is an image from a study that was done at Microsoft. And they basically had these people wear I want to say EKGs, but those like imagine like a thing on the head, right, with that reads brain signals. And now, look, there was only 14 participants, so it's not a huge, robust sample, but regardless, this is what the data showed. And basically, they had people wear it who didn't have breaks in between meetings, and then they had people who had 10-minute breaks in between meetings. And the blue equals less stress, the red equals more stress. Basically, what they found was that people who didn't have breaks in between meetings, they accumulated more stress as the day went on. Whereas those who were having breaks in between meetings and were also meditating during that time, they had less stress. And when you have less stress, you're able to think more clearly. You're much more calm. You're able to make better decisions. You're able to respond and not react. So do your best to set 25-minute meetings and just have 5 minutes to yourself. You use it to reset, clarify your thoughts, reduce stress, and make better decisions. Habit number 9 is this concept called the third space. And I was introduced to this early in my career, and it's had a lot of impact on me. Basically, the third space is the space between work and home where you can reset with intention. Now, I've mentioned this to you before. I have a toddler, and for parents, I think this concept of the third space, particularly if you're working from home, is so, so important. And basically, it is giving yourself permission and giving yourself just a moment to intentionally switch off from the workday and then move into mum mode, dad mode, adult mode, whatever it is, just like your mode, personal mode, because you do need to switch off and move away from work so that it's not like in your thoughts and it's not like creeping in. Like we live in this world now where work and home has meshed together and we're not separating them enough. And what that means is like we're pondering on things for too long and we're stressing. And if you have a higher underlying amount of stress, like you're not going to be making good decisions the next day. So you do need to switch off from work. And the third space can help you do that. So what is the third space? What does it look like? It is just a little ritual that says to yourself, the workday is done. And it can look like anything that suits you. It could be a walk outside. It could be sitting on a local park bench. It could be standing in the backyard with your bare feet touching the ground. It could be listening to music. It could be meditating. It could be running, whatever it is for you. For me, like I find doing like a HIIT workout really helpful. Sometimes if I have the time, walking, just going for a walk, or actually like the drive to pick my son up is also a way where it's like, that's my wind down time. Like that's the intentional space between work and home. Habit number 10 to protect your energy is walking meetings. I don't think we do this enough, particularly now, but they are incredibly helpful. And you just need to pick the right moments to do them. But really, like, aim for one a week. Like, just make that your goal where you're going to do one 30-minute walking meeting a week. Actually, like I was trying at one point for one a day, but it was really windy where I was. And so people couldn't hear me very well on the phone. So that didn't really work. But anyway, why they're helpful. When you're walking and when you've like stepped away from your laptop and when you're out in the fresh air, you think clearer, You get your steps up, so like you're looking after your health and your body, which only again makes you think clearer. And being away from your desk can boost your creativity. But as I said, you just have to find the right meetings to do it. I think one-on-ones are good, like particularly if you don't have anything to show on screen, like just it can just be a phone call. Like I don't know why we've now obsessed that every meeting now needs to be Zoom just because like we went from working in the office together to working remotely. Like we don't not everything needs to be on Zoom. It can be a phone call. The other thing was stand-ups. Like if you're doing team stand-ups where it's just an update around the room or an update across around the group, you can do this on the phone. All right, and the last bucket is habits that strengthen your mindset. Arguably, these are the most impactful ones and the things that you will, if you focus on these over time and continue to focus on these are only going to pay back tenfold. So, the first one to strengthen your mindset is to collect your wins. This is something that, in particular, females aren't great at. We're not reflecting on our successes and our achievements, and we often focus on what's next, what could I improve, what can I do better. And one of the things that I encourage a lot of the females that I work with to do is to set a reminder in their calendar every Friday from 3 till 3:30 that's just called My Weekly Wins. And in that invite, you just write down what are the 3 things that went well for me. What went well for me this week? Like just document your 3 things. And over time, you build them up. You can put them into a Word document, whatever you want. But this becomes a good reminder when you need a confidence boost. And it also is a great reminder when you're doing your performance reviews to go to look through them to go, what is it that I've achieved this year? But our minds seek what we tell them to find. So if you are reminding yourself of the achievements that you've had, you're only going to boost your confidence further. If you are telling yourself, however, to find moments of like self-doubt, you're going to find those moments more and you're going to feel less capable. So train yourself to find your wins and train yourself to celebrate them. All right. And then the final habit is this saying, which is such a potent saying. And it is learning to say to yourself, the story I'm telling myself is. So this came from Brené Brown, who is I want to say psychologist, but she is very, very well known for her research in courage and vulnerability and leadership. And basically, what she identified is that when she looked at resilient leaders, like leaders who practiced a lot of resilience, this was the common phrase that they would use. They would use this in their head and they would say this to themselves before they were thinking about an opinion that they had or before they were thinking about a situation. So they knew that we create stories in times of stress, pain, or uncertainty. We make up things that are happening. We think that that person's not replying to my Slack message because they mustn't want to work with me or they must think that like I'm not doing a good job, instead of that person's not replying to my Slack message because they're really busy. Like we create these stories and then we let those stories sort of like build momentum in our mind and take over our thoughts and then take over our actions. And so the resilient people recognize that these stories exist and they recognize it by saying this to themselves. The story I'm telling myself is. So how this like has an impact to you at work. It's like, why, as I said, why a person hasn't responded to you, why someone interrupted you in a meeting. Like when someone interrupts you in a meeting, you might then go, oh, they've interrupted me because they thought I'm dumb or they just thought like I had a stupid idea. But actually, maybe they interrupted you because they're just impatient and it's actually about them and it's not about you. But you can see how there was a story you were telling yourself in the first one. It might be why someone said one thing to you and then another in public. Like this can happen at work, unfortunately, but often the meaning that we place on it isn't the true meaning that exists. And this can also happen when you start to perceive that other people might have agendas or you start to tell yourself stories about why someone is acting in a certain way. And that actually, it just breeds some toxic thought. So the most resilient leaders just identify that they are telling themselves stories and then they try to seek the facts and then try to respond to those facts. None of these habits are overly complicated. Like they're just not, they're simple daily or maybe weekly habits that you can put into practice straight away, but they do make you over time more organized. They help you think more clearly. They help you build trust within an organization and trust with your leader. So make sure you start practicing them. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to the channel. I share weekly strategies on how to navigate work, how to grow your confidence, and how to grow your career.